Earlier this week, when President Buhari presented the 2022 budget to the National Assembly, he made a commitment that defense and internal security will continue to be top priority for the government. To analyze the security budget and the commitment to a safer country is Babajide Ogunsanwo, data and information consultant. Great to see you as always.
Good evening, I'm writing something down.
Yeah, well, you can talk about what you're writing now. So this 2022 budget is the final full year budget that the government can implement. What do you make of the details, even though you're concentrating on security tonight?
No, the details, I would like to start from just a slightly different perspective, and that's, a wise man once said, do not save what you have after spending. Instead, spend what you have after saving. Looking at what had happened earlier this week, there's good news and there's bad news. I'd like to start with the good news. And the good news is, on Thursday, the 7th of October, when President Buhari laid the budget in front of the National Assembly, he set a new record. 7th of October is now the fastest date, the earliest date that the President would lay the budget to the National Assembly since we started this new era of democracy in 1999. So not President Obasanjo, not Goodluck Jonathan, not Yar'Adua has laid a budget earlier than 7th of October. So by that record, the President has set a new Nigerian record for laying the budget. Good news. Okay. But here's the bad news. Same President, his first budget 2016, in the proposal, he had proposed an exchange rate of 190 naira to $1. Same President Buhari. In this budget, the exchange rate is no longer 190, it is 412 naira. Same President. In 2016, he had proposed a debt service of 1.3 trillion naira. Now, proposal for debt service over 3.6 trillion naira. Same President. Same President. Since 2016 to date, we've seen a budget in excess of over 45 trillion naira. So in all the President's budgets, we've seen over 45 trillion naira. But the evidence shows that the budget is really not Nigeria's problem. What is the problem is a cash-backed budget. So in 7 years, we've seen budgets presented, reviewed, and approved. The challenge is not the presentation. The challenge is not the review. The challenge is backing up that budget with money. And that is the complaint of not just the military, but is also the complaint of other ministries.
So you mentioned the military, and we're talking cash now. So 16.4 trillion naira, that's the highest we've seen so far for this country. Is it because of security, do you think?
Now, security plays a big role, yes, and we'll talk about security in detail. But I'll describe this budget as it's a huge budget, yet it is small. I'd previously described this budget as chicken chain, and I'd like us to take a look at the facts, looking at why this budget is huge.
Yeah, because you've discussed military spending before.
Yes, exactly. So it's a huge budget, yet small. And one way to understand it is to compare this budget with our peers and to other global powers. The fact shows that, yes, this budget in dollar terms is about $39 billion. The South African proposed budget is $135 billion. The budget of the United States, $6 trillion. But let's make it equal. Nigeria, yes, a population of 211 million, equates our budget per person to an average of $189, only $189 per person for the year. Look at the average for South Africa for their own budget based on their population, an average of more than $2,200. And the United States, their budget, average budget per person for next year is over $18,000. If you want to take it a little bit further to really understand the implications of this, at $189 per person for the Nigerian budget, per day, that's just 50 cents, Amachi. So look, one way to look at this budget is, yes, it's 16.4 trillion naira, the largest in the country's history. But comparing to South Africa, we see that it is still insufficient per person. And even looking at it in terms of being able to let the common man understand it, the budget in simple terms is 50 cents per person, per Nigerian, per day.
Yeah, I wish it compared it to other West African countries, seeing that we all have a common problem, which is insecurity. But what is the outlook then for the funding of the police and the military in 2022?
So the outlook is to start from what is the current situation. And if you take a look at the current situation, especially with the fight against crime and terrorism, yes, we've seen significantly more synergy between the units of the Army, Navy, Air Force, and also the police playing some role. But we've seen more of that synergy coming from this new military leadership. But the challenge is, yes, they are doing the right things, but because of insufficient funding, they are not doing it at the right time. Again, I'll repeat that. What we see is the new military structure is doing the right things, but they are not being able to do it at the right time because several complaints are heard that whenever actions need to be taken, the military does not have the funds to take timely actions. And so, yes, military synergy has shown growth, but again, so that it's not confusing.
It is still confusing.
So let's try and make it easier. What we have is the world's biggest spenders, Amachi. The United States spends $778 billion, not on their budget, on their military alone. China spends more than $250 billion annually on their military. India, more than $73 billion. And if you look at United Kingdom somewhere there, they spend approximately $60 billion. Nigeria is spending only $4 billion annually on the military. Yet, we face significantly challenging security problems than any of these other countries. Only $4 billion, not 40, not 10, not 20. The challenges we still face today are not just challenges of banditry and terrorism. It is because our security system is being poorly funded. We're being poorly funded not intentionally from the government, but because the government's revenue sources as well are declining.
Yeah, and I guess this will be conversation hopefully for next Sunday when we take a closer look at this because it still doesn't add up. You know, they're getting so much and doing still so little.
So much when we think of it in Naira terms, but when we consider it in dollar terms and how much this equipment and what it takes to run successful military campaigns like the global powers have done, it shows that we're still not even at the surface, we're still below the surface. So the government has two things they need to focus in the future. First is to make more money and then to fund security and defense, like the president has made the commitment to make defense and internal security his priority.
We are going to skip your grandfather's last thoughts tonight.
I know that your priority is to leave them.
Thank you so much for joining me on the News at 10.
Right.